Nervous about teaching math? Maybe that's why you clicked on this video. Well, we all want to make sure that we're teaching our kids not the wrong way, but like the right way. So today I'm so excited for you. You're going to get to hear from two math experts. Today we're chatting all things typical and atypical math, curriculum choices, interventions, and perhaps when to switch courses. I am so grateful to have Shardae and Jessica with me to share their years of working with kids in math. So Shardae, Jessica, welcome. So glad you guys are here. Let's go ahead and start off with where we're coming to the table from, because we've all got these experiences in homeschool and our own math journeys and teaching math in brick and mortar settings. So tell me about an experience, Jessica, we're going to start with you here. Tell me about an experience you had as a kid that informed how you felt about math. Like, how's that informed how you teach math now?
So I was trying to think of one specific moment, and I can't really come up with one. The only thing I can think of is that over all the years, I had teachers, a math teacher specifically, that I loved. And that, I think, is what helped me go down the path of like teaching math, because I've wanted to be a teacher for as long as I can remember, since I was a really little kid. But I originally thought I wanted to teach elementary school. And then as I went through the years of school and saw how much I loved math, I was like, actually, I think I just want to teach math because I love this subject. But I think the reason that I loved it so much is because I had so many good math teachers. So just like realizing that the way it's being taught has a huge effect on if you're going to end up enjoying doing it or not. You know, because my sister had the opposite experience. She had awful math teachers. She did not like any of her math teachers, and she hates math. And I feel like, you know, we both were at the same school, but we just got different teachers, and it brought us on different paths, you know. So I wasn't able to come up with like, this is the moment I knew. But my teachers each year, I think overall, is what definitely helped me to love math.
I love it. And you ended up being a brick and mortar
math teacher. Exactly.
And now you are your own business, right? Mindfulmentor.com.
Right.
And you're working with homeschool families and other kiddos.
Yeah, exactly. I teach homeschool students. I teach like group classes, and then I do private tutoring for both homeschool students and public school students.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I love it. All right, Shardae, what's yours?
Okay, so I actually have three that I could think of, and it's because they all kind of put me in a trajectory that I ended up taking. So I was good at math, and I didn't know it. It was like one of those type of things. And one of my earlier memories was when I was in the 6th grade. I got a 99 on a test, and I got upset because I wanted a 100. Then when I was in high school, my junior year, I was invited to join the math league. And something had happened with one of their members, and I didn't have backup. And my teacher reached out, and she was like, hey, you want to come to a math league meeting today? Like, just this one time. And I was like, sure, you know, whatever. Guys, I went, and I got a question right. And it was like a really hard question. And the whole team, they were like cheering me on. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm good at this. Like, people, there's like something in this for me. And at that same time, because it was my junior year, I did start taking the SAT and the ACT. And we found, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. In the 4th grade, we found out that I was dyslexic. And we can talk about that a little later, but it kind of pushed me in the area of math because it came very easy to me. Like, I had to work hard at reading and lingua charts and all that stuff. So when it came to me taking my SAT and ACT, my math scores were really, really good. It wasn't perfect, but it was like people were reaching out to me because of that math score. But my English and reading score was like very low. And so I was like, maybe I have something here, and I need to stick with like the math or science, you know, a math and science career. So when I went to college, I majored in math with a minor in computer science, and I took 2 computer science classes. And I was like, yeah, no, this ain't for me. It's like a bunch of ones and zeros. Who has time for this? I don't care what's going on. I want to use the computer, but I don't care about all that. And so I went against the advice of my advisor because, you know, like being a Black woman in the, you know, sciences, you know, it comes at a, like, you're wanted, but like to make me more wantable, or more marketable, they said, every math major has a minor. And so I was like, oh, I'll do computer science. And when I realized that wasn't my thing, I minored in education. And so as I began to, make my way with students, I realized that there's something that happens, right? Like people, they choose, okay, I'm either good at reading and language arts or I'm good at math, and they go down that path. But I really loved helping children find themselves in math and knowing like, no, you're not going to be perfect, but you can do this. And so I taught public school for 10 years. I taught at online schools for 8, and then I've been homeschooling for 7 years. And of course, there's been like overlap with a little bit of all that. And so I have a master's in education, guidance counseling, and then I'm also a national board certified teacher. So all that to say, I really love math, and I'm that teacher that Jessica probably would have had.
Yes. Oh, full circle. I love it. Okay. You guys are both so overqualified to be here. I just love that we're getting the chance. So for those of you watching this, it's time to get out your paper and pencil and get ready to learn how to teach math, because there are some ways that we're just going to really infuse that love of learning that I feel like both of you maybe experienced in your math growing up time. So let's get into this. All right. Let's get into typical math learning lane. We're going to go down a typical math learning lane in a minute. And I love that you brought up your dyslexia diagnosis, because yes, reading, but also reading is a part of math in some ways. And so we're probably going to need to touch on that as well. But let's get into the typical math learning lane. Shardae, let's start with you. What are some things that you're looking at, especially as a homeschool mom, that you've recently taught, your young kids and are building in their math time? What types of things are you looking at the beginning?
So I actually have 3 children that I'm actively homeschooling, and I would say my pre-K, my rising first grader, and my rising fourth grader. And these are pivotal points in a child's education. So with my preschoolers, we're more concerned about, can you count to 10? If I ask you to hand me a crayon, can you hand me a crayon? 1 crayon. Can you hand me 3 crayons? Can you pick up 3 pieces of trash when we're cleaning up after the homeschool day? Right? Like, it's more so, I forget the term. You guys probably, it's Montessori, but there's like a technical term for like, you don't really have like stuff to go with it. You're just using your daily life. So I more so teach, just use everyday things when we're getting snacks. Can you get everyone a snack? So he's already being able to do like 1-to-1 correspondence. And so I don't have a math curriculum for him. We just work on things like that. Okay. Now my rising first grader, I'm wanting to set him up to be able to add. And so I might have a little, like a little cheat code. He actually has been asking to add, but I was worried that I may move him a little too soon. And so the things that we worked on when he was in kindergarten was being able to identify AB patterns, ABC patterns, ABB patterns, counting, 1-to-1 correspondence, and that's about it. And we started doing, like, he'll say, "Mommy, what's 1 + 1?" I'll say, "I don't know. You get me, one cereal piece and the other cereal piece. What do you see? What do you get?" And he'll be like, 2. So just giving him a chance to discover it on his own. We haven't necessarily gone into math facts yet. And so as he now is coming into the first grade, we will start to play games and kind of hone in on those math facts. Making sure that he's not counting on his fingers are also things that we want to, watch out for. So as he's starting, we're going to start to, yes.
Can I ask a question? Why? Why can't they count on their fingers?
They can count on their fingers, okay? But at some point, you want to make sure that they're not forming any type of learning disability. So as they are being able to look at 5 things and saying, okay, 1 + 4 is 5, 2 + 3 is 5. They're gaining those deeper rooted math fact families, and then they can take that and skip count. They can take that and do more, do harder math concepts. And then with my fourth grader, let me know if I'm going too fast as well.
No,
yes,
I love
ask
it.
questions.
You're great.
And then with my fourth grader, we are working on, she actually started the homeschool journey because she was having trouble with reading and math. So I decided I would be the one to slow down for her. So she is actually at a third grade level, and we are starting multiplication and division. And so she is set up for success because having a mom that taught high school calculus, I know where all of this is going. And so she can skip count, and she's already got like some foundational skills. And so we're just working on that this year.
I love that. But I love one thing that you said there. You'll be the one to slow down for her. That is the beauty of homeschool right here. And please take advantage of it. There is no one, hopefully, looking over your shoulder saying, but you didn't finish every page before June 15th, right? Like, no, do what you need to do to fill those gaps so that later on, when they get into that high school calc class or whatever, or they come to Jessica in middle and high school, and they're going to work through some of these things that she's going to tell us about, they've got that really solid, foundation. So I love that. Anything else there, Shardae? I feel like that's a really good look.
I think, and just also with my pre-care, like as we're talking about the one-to-one correspondence, I also incorporate, can you hand me the one red crayon? Like I'll start to be more specific with colors and shapes and stuff like that. But I think that's it.
All right, rockin'. Jessica, take us from there. You got I know Shardae has this experience too, but this is where you're currently at. Tell us where it goes from there. Upper elementary, middle, and high school.
Okay, yeah. So my classes that I teach are right now are 3rd through 8th grade. But when I was teaching brick and mortar, I taught middle school for 5 years and I taught high school for 5 years. So I also did up to AP Calc. So just like Shardae, I know the trajectory of where they're going to end up. So, and it's awesome to get to work with them at a younger age now to try and solidify a lot of those basic things that they're going to need. Like I would see kids in my Algebra 2 class and AP Calc who still were having trouble with, some of the basic stuff. And I'm glad to get the chance now to kind of work with them at that younger age to hopefully catch some of that stuff to make those older years a little bit easier. Yes, I see. Go for it, Shardae.
Isn't it cool to see I know when I was teaching, I would be algebra 2, I'd be like, how do you not know this? Like what happened? Because I know that, we know what needs to be taught. Like we know what was taught in the 3rd grade, but we weren't in the room, how did that happen? And now you get to see how it happens and how we get here where you can't understand that it's something like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think what you guys were talking about being able to slow down and go at the pace they need, I think that is what is happening. If they're in 3rd grade and they didn't get multiplication, and then they move on to 4th grade and 5th grade and they just are they're progressing through without making sure they really understand the stuff. So when they get to high school, they still have to count on their fingers to multiply. And I'm algebra 2 is going to be really hard for you if you're still skip counting to multiply everything. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a lot of the issue is that in public school, a lot of times they don't get to take the time they need to get that really good foundation. But so I believe the question was from 3rd grade on, where do they go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I teach my 3rd grade classes, it's mostly, like Shardae said, focusing on multiplication and division, I would say are the top 2 big things in 3rd grade. And then we focus on word problems and starting to understand, if you're given a word problem, trying to figure out what keywords help you to decide, should I add or should I multiply or divide or things like that. So in my classes, we do a chart of if you hear this word in a problem, it usually means this. If you hear this word, it means this, to try and get them to.
You're referring to things like more, how many more altogether, total, right? So stick one of those, mama, papa listening, put one of those up on the wall in your kitchen. All right, keep going.
Right, exactly. And so let's see. So we got multiplying, dividing are 2 big ones. Word problems are huge. And then once they have, because by 3rd and 4th grade, they usually have addition and subtraction down pretty well. We do learn about 3-digit adding and subtracting. And I teach them multiple different methods for how to do it and a lot of ways to try and do it in their head. So that way they don't just have to write it out and do, the lining it up and having to do it on paper to be able to do it in their head, especially if it's, you know, things like 50 plus 80, or sorry, we were talking about 3 digits, like 300 plus 800. They don't want to have to like write it all out. They can just use these strategies to get there. So for me, a lot of what I focus on is being able to, because by then they've got basic addition down. So if they can start doing harder addition with some kind of mental math methods, then that's what we focus on in 3rd grade too. And then I know we do stuff with like area and perimeter, because once they can add, they can find the perimeter. And once they can multiply, they can find the area. And so starting to see like, why am I learning about multiplication? It's because here's some applications of it and things like that. So that's usually like lower elementary. By 5th grade, they're starting to basically take those same basic skills, but do them a little more higher level. So like multiplying 4 digit by 4 digit is going to get, you know, really tricky. Maybe not that big by 5th grade, but, you know, once they've got their times tables and their multiplication skills down and they know what multiplication looks like the reasoning behind multiplication, then they can start to kind of break it down and look at higher level numbers. And that's when I start to have them look at fractions and decimals and things like that too, in the lower and upper elementary. And then by middle school, by like 6th and 7th grade, they start looking at integers. So they're only used to looking at positive numbers, but by beginning of middle school, we start looking at, well, what about if we have a negative number? Yes, and that explodes their brains. Yes. Yeah, and so that honestly is one of the big things in high school I would still see students struggling with. Even by calculus, they would have a really hard time with the positive and negative. So I really focus and make sure that they've got that down. And one of the things that I use to teach that is thinking of them as like different teams. So like you have the positive team and the negative team. So like if you're adding -5 plus 7, so you have 5 guys on the negative team, you have 7 guys on the positive team. Are they going to fight each other? Are they going to join together and make a bigger team? They're on opposite teams, so they're going to fight. Which team is going to win? The positive team wins because they have more people. How much did they win by? They won by 2 people. So -5 plus 7 is 2. And when they see it that way, they're like, oh, that, like,
Duh.
that makes sense, right? Or if it was -5 plus -7, they're on the same team, so they're not going to fight. They're going to join together, and now you have -12. You just have a bigger team of negatives. So like trying to get them to think of it in different ways, or, you know, using a number line helps a lot with positive and negative numbers too. So that's a huge one in lower elementary school, is integers. And a lot of students by then still need some practice with fractions, and like higher level things like multiplying and dividing fractions and mixed numbers and all that stuff. And then I would say by like 7th grade, usually we work on solving equations, like basic equations, like x plus 5 equals 12. And I like to do that showing with a scale. It's like if you had on this side, you had a box that was x and a box that was 5. And on this side, you had a box that was 12. You know, the scale has to be balanced. Kids can look at that and they're like, oh, that box has to be 7. They just like, no. But if I gave them the equation x plus 5 equals 12, they're like, what? How do I solve this? But I'm like, you literally just did, like in that picture, you know? So like giving them a visual or like relating it to something that actually makes sense in their brain versus just the abstract x plus 5 equals 12. They're like, what does it mean to solve for x? And because solving equations is like, you have to have that down in order to do the whole rest of math. And so that's one that I focus on a lot. And by 8th grade is the highest I go in my classes right now. Usually that's where you start taking all those basics and like learning about like systems of equations. If you have 2 equations that you want to solve, find the solution that works for both. Now that we've got a good foundation in 1 equation, we can apply it for 2, and things like graphing lines. And by 8th grade, some people start graphing like higher level, like quadratic equations and things like that. We look at like the Pythagorean theorem and start getting some formulas for volume of shapes and things like that. So that's when it starts to get kind of more higher level with like formulas. Like once they have equations down, then you can apply it to specific formulas and things. So I know I feel like that was a mouthful, but from 3 to 8. Yeah.
Can I make a connection here? Because what both of you guys are saying is that there needs to be deeper understanding or higher levels of understanding. If we want to go like Bloom's taxonomy, friends, go Google it real quick, pull it up on the other tab, because it's this pyramid, right? When we get up to the top, we're creating that scale type illustration where, duh, it's going to be 7 because we need to have that 5 bounce out to a 12. So making those connections, bringing in the abstract, making the abstract more concrete in whatever way that looks like for the age that you're working with, be it a piece of cereal or something a little bit more interesting, like a sports team or something for the older kids. So I love these connections. These are great. Let's veer off a little bit to the atypical math journey. I want to hear about some experiences, perhaps, or perhaps Shardae, your dyslexia experience with math. Did that play into your math learning with word problems and reading for understanding? And then I also want to hear about, Jessica, if you want to pop in with some of your experiences, maybe case studies, not case studies, experiences that you've seen in your classes. Some anecdotes from there, that would be great. So Shardae, do you want to start us off? What atypical math experiences have you seen?
Yeah, I'll start off with me, and then I'll share like one or two of my students that I had in public school. And we could talk about a little bit of my daughter too. So my experience with dyslexia, it did prohibit me from being a good reader. And so I had to learn, like Jessica was saying, some of the words that would stick out would be more than, like, you know, I would focus on that vocabulary. And so once I realized, okay, these words mean this, and then I was able to make inferences off of what I was reading, I became even better at math. So it became like, okay, I'm good at math. I can do this. And I'm going to lay down, you know, the English language arts. Another thing is that it slowed me down. And so I knew that I could solve the problem, like a word problem. I was really good at like skills-based stuff, but I knew I could solve the problem. I just needed to, you know, make sure I was underlining, circling, and pulling out what was really important. And so that's what it comes to with, if your child is having some issues with processing or dyslexia or dyscalculia. Can I say that word? Dyscalculia? Or even ADHD. It's going to, you're going to need to help them be able to be aware of their Achilles heel and just slow them down a little bit, and taking the time to figure out, okay, this is how I learn. These are some tools to help me solve this problem, and let's work with it. Now, you know, not everyone needed to do the underlining and the circling and all of that, but I needed to do that, and I needed to be okay with that, because that's what was going to propel me forward. I actually had a student who had dyscalculia, and it was like my last year teaching public school, and I was like, what is that? And so his mom came in, had a meeting, and I think she took him to like Mathnesium or something. It's kind of like Silver Learning Center here. And she said, so he ended up having a 504 plan. If you don't know what that is, it's like an IEP, but it's for kids who don't necessarily need, who are on medication for their learning disabilities. And so he ended up having a 504 plan, and things that were helpful for him were to have like a quiet environment. Also, let's say the test had 20 questions, I would tell him to do the 10, or when we got to a point where he felt comfortable with me, I allowed him to take the test in 20 or 30-minute increments so that he wouldn't feel frustrated, but he also wanted to perform for me. That's a thing. Like, you know, like kids could also not want to perform for the teacher. And so we started out with, okay, let's just try you doing the, you know, half of the test. You do evens on this test, the next test you do odds or whatnot. But then as we built a relationship, he actually wanted to finish the test, and we would just take 2 or 3 days to finish it. I find that, you know, building a relationship with those children is very helpful, because they trust you and they're more willing to put out whatever you're asking for. And then my daughter, she's 9, and something that I noticed with her was that from the board to what she was writing, this is when she was in public school. She did kindergarten and first grade in public school. So from the board to what she was writing, it wasn't happening as quick as I would think. And so she would come home with incomplete assignments and notes. And so we would finish them at home. But as I'm working with her now, yeah, she doesn't she doesn't work as quickly as I would think that she should. So it's just a patience that comes with it as well. She's not diagnosed with anything, but I do know that just being a mom and sitting with her, from even with my first grader to my fourth grader, like it takes her a while to like process from the board or from the paper to her paper or things of that nature. So just being patient, building a relationship, that's always helpful.
Huge, huge, huge. I love it. That patience and that trust, that you are there to not ask for 30 questions. Let's get these 15 done. Again, coming back to it, what is the point of what we're doing? We want to show progress. Yeah, we want to make that next step toward the next thing that we're working on. But is 30 questions the goal, or is progress the goal? Progress is the goal. And if that requires a little bit of time, take it, do it. Hopefully, again, that's a freedom that you have in your homeschool. Take advantage of it. Please use it. Don't just force it. Jessica, what else would you say? I don't know if you have any more anecdotes, perhaps, from working with students.
Honestly, I feel like she covered all the stuff that I would do with students in my class too, like giving them more time if they need it. Well, and a lot of the things she talked about a lot of times are not super doable in a classroom, like not as much as you would like to, whereas homeschooling, like you said, allows the freedom to do all those things. So being able to take a test 20 minutes at a time in public school, especially by high school, I'm like, I can't give you 5 days, 20 minutes at a time to finish this test. I wish I could. And I know you would get the test done and you'd probably get 100% on it, or do really well on it. I had so many students with test anxiety where they would do wonderful doing the whole unit. And I'd work with them and I knew they had it down. And then I would grade their test. I'm like, no, because they were just so stressed while they were taking it, and they'd get it back. And their grade does not reflect what they actually know, because they just were stressed out, or they were, had rushed and didn't have time to finish it, or whatever it may be. So taking the time that you need is the biggest thing I would say, especially with any kind of atypical learning or learners. And then he mentioned like students with, ADD and ADHD, instead of, if there's a page in whatever curriculum you're working on that asks them to do 20, 30, 50 problems, we don't have to force them to do the whole thing, because if someone with ADHD is not going to be able to sit there and do 50 problems in a row. And then, if you really do want them to get all 50 done, like you said, split it up over small chunks of time. And then I feel like another thing, it doesn't have to be like done at a desk, like sitting there, desk work all day. I feel like some parents maybe just have the idea of like, well, but that's how school goes. Like, that's how it was when I was in school. I had to sit and do all my work for hours. So like, that's just how you do it. But it doesn't have to be. And that's, again, the freedom of homeschool is awesome, that it allows you can do 20 minutes here. You can go sit on the couch. You can go lay in the hammock and do it outside. Like, whatever they need, that's going to help them to be able to focus for small chunks of time, and maybe mixing up the way that they're required to do it. Instead of just, here's a worksheet, do all these problems. You can have them play games. You can have them show you that they know it in a different way, which that's tricky in the public school classroom too, because you kind of have to standardize the way that you record all of your stuff. Like I need to see what you got on this test, versus at home, you're like, this child can show me this way, and this child is better with their hands, so they can show me, kinesthetically, and this one is visual. So like I know it's hard. Parents are like, how do I know what way my kid learns? And I think over time you start to see what things work better for which child. And once you've been able to figure that out, like latching onto that and making sure you're teaching to their learning style, I think is huge.
I love that. Lean into that freedom, that choice, discovery. If they, got one of my kids is like obsessed with World War II. I'm like,
okay.
Where'd that come from? But like, okay, let's go with that. Let's look at these tunnels that are like in Switzerland. Why did Switzerland have tunnels? You already know the answer because you already studied all this stuff about World War II. But like, let's look at like diameter. What diameter does this need to be? So go with it. If they're obsessed with something, let them be obsessed with it, and then butt in with whatever other content you need to. But I love it. Make it comfortable, make it enjoyable. We have a hammock, homeschooling from a hammock. I feel like that needs to be like a book or something. Like, just where can you make it so that kids are going to enjoy what they're doing, and it does not have to be at a desk. I love that. Okay, let's get into some of our favorite tools, curriculum. Jessica, I know you've got a freebie, so you guys look down below. She's got a whole math comparison. Do you want to explain this probably better than I can?
Yeah, I love spreadsheets, and I wanted, so currently I'm not homeschooling any of my own children. I'm just homeschooling, in my classes and things, but I'm like trying to get all this information together for when I do homeschool. And I'm like, I don't want to forget all this. So I put it all together into a spreadsheet, and I was like, I feel like other parents could potentially use this as well. So yeah, and I'm adding to it all the time. So I put all the math curriculum that I know of and that I've used with students so far, and it's got a column to tell that describes what the curriculum is like, tells if it's pen and paper or online, because I know some people prefer one or the other. It tells what grades it is, what grades they have resources for. And I try to give, when I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups with homeschool families, and I talk to my homeschool families that I work with to try and get people's opinions. So there's a column that shows if parents recommend it or not, so you can see if people are liking it or not. And it tells if it's secular or if religious, or just all the questions you would have about a curriculum, instead of having to go to every single website and find it all yourself, it's kind of just laid out there. And then when you see one that does tick all the boxes you're looking for, then it's got the link and you can kind of go from there.
Beautiful. Okay, so check that out below. I love that. Any other extra sites that you enjoy, websites, games? Shardae, I'm going to come to you next. Jess, anything else you want to add there?
So one that a lot of people ask about as a curriculum, but a lot of people also don't feel is a full curriculum, but that I like a lot as some extra help, is IXL. That's a program, especially for math, that it's really good at finding the gaps, because a lot of parents are how do I know what my kid knows and doesn't know? And so IXL is really good about, you take the diagnostic and it tells you, okay, they're good on this, don't worry about this. Here are the areas they need to focus on. And then it recommends them sections that they can practice to work on that. The issue a lot of people have is that it's not here, watch this lesson and then do these practice videos. It's just do the practice problems. It's just a bunch of problems, and some of the sections have videos and some don't. So that's why people don't consider it a full curriculum, because it's not, here's a lesson, here's some practice. But so I use it more as, once students know what they need to work on, then we can use those practice problems, and I can walk them through it or teach them if they haven't learned how to do it. So IXL, I think, is awesome for pinpointing and filling in gaps. And then for games, I love the website Blookit, and I've created a bunch of games on there, and actually have some of those resources on my website too, of all the games I've created over the years. You can get access to all the ones I've made, and they're by topic. So if you're I know I want my kid to practice fractions, then you can find my fractions Blookit. And my students love that game. We play it almost every week in class, and they know that it's coming at the end of class. They're is it time for Blookit yet? Is it can we play? And if we run out of time because something went long, they're oh, we don't get to play Blookit today. So that's one. And then kids will go home and make their own account and everything, and play it at home without being in class. So that's another one that I really recommend.
Motivation. That's great. All right, Shardae, what are some of your favorites? Games, curriculum?
My favorite curriculum is Apologia and Apologia Math. So you guys know I used to be a math teacher. So as I'm going throughout my day teaching 3 kids how to read, Apologia is such a breath of fresh air, because we get to start out with some type of discovery or activity or game. And my children, they love games. They don't, in the earlier levels, there's no test, but they have alternate assessments. And so another thing, that you're not a homeschool mom, or if you are a homeschool parent, Khan Academy is also pretty good. You can use the whole curriculum for free. But my latter years of teaching, I tried, I dabbled in a flipped classroom. So I would use Khan Academy as the teaching portion. And when they came to class, we'd work on their exercises, and that's where I came in. And so that was the kids really liked Academy. And then she said I excel. That was one of my recommendations, Jessica. And Math. She has a review pack, and that's kind of like all of the topics that a child may have covered like in the 3rd grade, if you just want to do that. But then she also has videos to go with her actual curriculum. And so that's my other favorite.
Love it. Okay, very cool. I'm going to chime in with my own here. We use Horizons for math, which is a spiraled print curriculum. We've just used it so far. It's been great. Allows for a lot of discussion between us and our kids. So that's helpful. We also use Extra Math just for the kiddo who's having trouble with those memorization of math facts. That's been good. And then we use Freckle. Freckle is just a free platform. You can create your own classroom. I should say you can create your own classroom as a teacher for free, and just give them those math facts. And there's also like a reading library with comprehension questions in there. So it's kind of nice to have them move away from your side and move over to the computer if that's something that you're interested in. Those are also good options. We also love board games. We love Ticket to Ride. And while that's not like a hardcore math game, it does require strategy. It requires measurement. It requires, cost benefit analysis. So if we're looking at connecting some of these math topics and making them a little bit more concrete, think about how you can use board games. There are so many out there. I'm going to holler at Gypsy Game Schooler. I'll leave her link below as well. She's a good friend who they travel in a bus and they don't bring curriculum with them. They just use games. And so it's really cool to see all the amazing games that she's dug up and how she teaches with them. So lots of ways to make math fun. If you've got one of those kids who's just like, no, thank you. You gotta step back. You have the option to do that as homeschoolers. Take the time to step back and figure something else out to make it work. All right, for the kiddo who, let's talk to the mom or dad who's slowly realizing there's something off about their child's math journey. Shardae, what would you recommend they do? Should they run straight to the nearest diagnostic center? Should they consult, a tutor?
I'd say to one, your child. Don't, like some people, oh, there's nothing. Your child, okay? First, if you're homeschooling, I would talk to their pediatrician, or you can get them tested at like a Sylvan, or in my state, we have like Mathnesium. And so places like that will test a child, and you can request for them to be tested, because it might not be dyscalculia. It's like only like people actually have it. It could be ADHD, it could be processing, it could be dyslexia. And so you don't want to just jump to that. And so those would be my next things. If your child is going to school, I would consult with their teachers and see what they have to say, and then also still follow up with their pediatrician, or if you can just go directly to a psychologist to have them tested, then that would be fine too.
Awesome. Jessica, how do families usually arrive at your door as a math tutor?
Do you mean like specifically ones who feel like their students maybe there's something going on? Yeah. A lot of them, by the time they've come to me, are like, I've either gotten them tested or I'm getting them tested right now. Like she was saying, going somewhere to try and get some kind of diagnosis or rule out a diagnosis. Like, because like she said, it's not all like you might think, oh, they have ADD or they have dyslexia. But if you get tested, then you can know for sure and know because there's a ton of research. Once you do have a diagnosis, there's luckily so many resources out there that you can use to help you. So it's not like, oh man, they got diagnosed with this, now we're out of luck, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like there's so much you can find to help you with that. And so having that diagnosis could help a lot. So by the time they've come to me, a lot of times they already have that. And so they kind of have already started looking up, I know this is helpful for him, and I know this will, like he loves this and he hates this, so let's avoid this, you know what I mean? So so that's what's nice about going somewhere and getting that actual test, is then it will help guide you down the right path to be able to help your student.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So being armed with the right information. Now, for those whose kids seem on track, maybe we might even go as far as to call them gifted in math. What are you excited? I can see both your faces. You're kind of like, yeah, we're gonna give them that challenge. How do you challenge them? What's your next step? What's something you kind of delight the kids who are like ready for the next thing? Jessica, do you want to start us off on this one?
Well, so for me, I teach my group classes, but the way I teach them, it's not like 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, like you can only take whatever grade you're at. I do them by level. So like my level 1 elementary is 3rd and 4th. My level 2 is 4th and 5th. So I kind of like combine things together. And also I set it up so that anyone can take anything they want. So like last year, I had an 8-year-old who he was actually in public school, but he was in 3rd grade, and he's so smart that he was bored in his 3rd grade class. Like they were working on baby stuff for what he, what he wanted to be doing. So he was in my level 2 middle school class, which is like 8th grade level, and he's 8 years old. And so I'm just like, for me, when that's the case, especially if they're gifted, let them go as fast as they want. Like let them keep exploring all the things that they want to explore. Don't be like, well, you're at 3rd grade, so this is what you're supposed to be learning. Like if they have blown through that, let them keep going. So yeah, I've had a few students who they were younger, but in my middle school class, and I love that. And I love to see how excited they get. They're like, oh my gosh, they get so excited learning all this cool stuff. And I'm like, yeah, see, math is fun.
I hear from a lot of, kindergarten parents who are like, they finish the curriculum by January. Should we wait until August to start no, go get the next book, friend. Have them enjoy what they're doing and have them feel really excited about it. Foster that. All right, Shardae, how are you continuing the math love for the kids who are excited about it?
Yeah, just let them go, let them soar, let them explore. And I would also say, let them see if they're into coding. See if they're into, I know like core knowledge, it's free. So it's not like you don't have to like put a big investment into it. They have a computer science course from like 1st to 6th grade. Let them go through that. Get them more into some of the things where they have to make inferences. And yeah, I'm on Jessica's side with that. Let them go.
Let them go. All right, cool. I'm going to add a few more things in there. Code.org, something our kids do, free. Kids love it. It's got like Minecraft and Star Wars and like fun stuff in there. So they'll have fun with it. They'll learn stuff. I don't know anything about coding, so I'm really excited that there's stuff out there for them to use. If you're going more screen-free, there is a wonderful screen-free coding option made by a friend who is an ex-engineer, an ex-Boeing engineer. Saltandlightspeed.com is a really great place to get beautifully made screen-free coding resources. If you never knew that was possible, it's possible. You can learn how to code and learn those skills early on. Later, you'll need a screen, but get those early skills on paper. All right, you two, we've covered a lot. We've covered typical, atypical. We've covered curriculum, things that we love, diagnostics. So I want to kind of bring it back to where you guys are working with families, how you're serving people. What are you doing right now? What are you looking forward to in the next couple months, personally, professionally? Share what you would like here. Shardae, can we hear from you? What are you looking forward to in the next 6 months?
So I am definitely working with children in my area for help with math. And I was thinking about starting like maybe teaching pre-algebra and seeing how that goes, because a lot of parents are they just need help, and I want to be the one to provide that help for them. And so that's just been things I've been thinking about. But also I'm homeschooling my children and I'm in seminary, so I'm looking forward to, I have 2 more weeks of this intensive class that I'm taking. It's like wearing me out. I'm looking forward to that being over. And then just some slow summer days. And we're actually going to start a homeschool year a little early, because next summer I know I'm going to take a Hebrew intensive. And so I actually want to be done with school in April so that I can take the 9 weeks off, because I was still doing Greek and homeschooling. I just want to, So just
I'm excited for you. To get through it. That's really cool. Hey, bravo. Awesome. Okay. Well, if pre-algebra happens amidst all that, I would be blown away, but very cool. Jessica, what do you have going on?
Well, I just recently started, I'm actually creating my own homeschool math curriculum, just based off of, because I've been teaching these grade 3 through 8 classes, and I'm like, those lessons, I'm turning them into homeschool curriculum that like parents could teach at home if they don't necessarily want their kid, coming to my in-person classes or my signing in for my online. They want to be able to teach them on their own. And like over the past 3 years working with homeschool students through tutoring, I've seen and used a bunch of homeschool curriculum, and a lot of them are awesome, but there's like one little thing I would change about it. Or so like, there's things that I'd see in a bunch of them, like, I wish this was different. I wish that was different. So I'm trying to make mine exactly the way that I would like it to be. And so, I mean, if I waited until it was all the way done, it wouldn't be released for years. So I'm doing it like one unit at a time. So I just released my first unit and I'm working on the second one. And so like slowly over the next 6 months, hopefully a decent amount will be released, and I can get at least a full year's worth out there soon. And so that's what I'm excited about.
Congrats to you too. My gosh.
Thank
Big
you.
things happen out here. I would expect no less from the two of you. Amazing. You guys, I'm so excited. Thank you so much. If you guys are watching this and thinking, I would like to keep learning from them, please head to either their handle or their website, and all that will be linked below as well. Tell them thank you for being here. This was a huge help. I know for me, I love hearing what other people are doing and what they're working on. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And to those of you who are watching, if nobody's told you yet today, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. It's really important. Happy teaching, guys.